Hey everybody, Gil here with the Sailing Vessel Dream Chaser, and in this week's episode the holidays are over and we have a lot of work that's been done on the boat. A lot of fiberglass work, a lot of prep for that work. We'll go ahead and start showing all that here in just a minute. The first part of which was some work that I decided to do on the boat to help save a little bit of the yard work labor. Specifically, this has to do with having the coach house fiberglass. So I think we've mentioned in the previous video we decided to go ahead and have the decks fiberglassed. We're also having the coach house fiberglassed as well. And in order to do that, what we talked about doing was we're going to remove the ports and we're going to remove the teak frames from around those ports. So the yard can essentially glass right up to it, and we can just use a router to trim the edge as opposed to having them lay glass in all of the intricate bends as well. So in this week's episode, I'll kind of walk through what we've done there and show some of the footage from it. Hope you guys enjoy it. So this is kind of the before. You can see this one's a little rougher. It's not under the bimini, so some of the bungs are out. They've been replaced with Phillips screws. Chances are this some point he probably caulked this thing because it was certainly leaking, but we'll see if we can take that decorative trim off here. It's on the port side center of the coach house. So several weeks ago we showed a video where the boatyard had started to do about a 6-inch piece of fiberglass between the very edge of the deck and onto the inside of the tow rails. You can see in this footage that they have now started to do something very similar along the coach house. The thought is there were some areas that needed to be patched there, and if you're looking at the bottom of this screen just below the round port, you can see what looks like a lighter color right between the deck and the actual coach house. This is because there's a gap there, and what they did was used a spray insulation or spray foam, kind of like that expanding two-part epoxy foam you see for insulation in homes, etc. They put that in there, and when it hardens and dries, they then go ahead and shave it into the shape they want, essentially giving it a smooth radius that will allow the material to go from the coach house down around to the deck. So that has been done, and now the idea is for me to get these port trim rings and ports out. So you saw earlier here I was drilling out the bungs. And now I'm just using a painter scraper to cut any of the adhesive between the teak trim and the actual coach house. In our case, there was a lot of epoxy and some kind of a caulking or sealant that were holding these on. Sadly, most of the bungs that were covering the screw holes had been put in with epoxy. So what ended up happening is the little grooves in the top of the screw head get filled with epoxy, and you can't get a screwdriver onto them. So you'll notice in just a second here, I actually end up breaking this ring, which I'm okay with. Honestly, I want to use it as a template, but our intent here is when we finish redoing the boat, we're no longer going to have a wooden side of the coach house. It's going to be fiberglass, and we love the look of the teak accents, so I'm going to make nice wide teak accents for all of the windows. So you can see I just broke that little edge piece, but I still have the rest of it that's going to come off in one piece as a template. Hey, you know, I'd really love to get your opinion on something. One other thing we've been considering. The spreaders on our mizzen mast are really not functional at all. They're really there to hold the lights that used to be on there. And we contemplated taking them off. As a matter of fact, I told the yard to go ahead and remove them, and then I changed my mind. So unfortunately, I might have to do a little bit of fabrication here to do it. But I'd love to get your input on this. I'll show you what I have here, and then just kind of curious what you would say for spreaders or not. I'm starting to lean back to putting them on there. They're just short little 2-foot wooden spreaders. But my thought is, one, it can take the lights and hold them a little further out from the mast, which I think would probably light up the deck a little better. And second, it'll give me an alternate place to run some flag halyards. Obviously, I know that most of them go on the right spreader of the main, but for just flags for my own entertainment or a parade or something like that, it'd be kind of neat to have another set of flag halyards. So check it out. Let me show you what I have. All right, so I'm looking up the mast, okay? So I'm standing at the lower side of it. Obviously, it's sitting horizontal. And here's where the stays will attach, the lower stays that will go down to the side of the deck. So you can see here, this is where the spreader actually mounted. There used to be another bracket right here, and I had them cut that off of there just to make it a little easier for bolting this. I had them cut that off of there, and I said just leave the lower one and I'll bolt the light right to it. I just temporarily put these on here. I gotta get the right size bolts. But you can kind of see what this might look like. Let me kind of line it up with the mast here. This is the top side of it. And as I rotate it around, you'll see what this would look like, right? So it's one of these 6 LED outdoor floodlights, not spot. So that's one option. And my thought was, at this angle, there's a chance that this material may shade or shadow a portion of that. And that's what had me thinking maybe putting a spreader on here that goes out 1.5 feet or a foot might be good to put the light, you know, out a little bit further. So I kind of go around here and you can see, you know, obviously there's one on each side. So there's the one on that side and one on this side. Again, I just finger tightened them on there to see what they would look like. So tell me what you think, spreaders or no spreaders? And why? Please leave it in the comments down below. It'd be really interesting to see what folks think about that. This is the port side aft non-opening port in the coach house. You can see it has a different trim than all the rest. Probably had been repaired at some point in the past. I'm going to remove that and see what it looks like. So as you might have been able to tell, each of these frames appears to look a little differently. I suspect this is because the previous owner has probably rebuilt some of these, and the owner before that may have rebuilt some. So I don't think any of these teak frames are actually what was on the boat initially. This particular one was probably the thickest of all of them, from the coach house to the outer edge. Was thicker than each of the other ones that were on the boat. But you can see here, just like before, I had removed the screws. I didn't show that part of the video, but I'd already removed the bungs and the screws on this one. Actually, there weren't any bungs on this one, if I recall correctly. And again, using my paint scraper, you can see just how easily this is coming off. Just 2 hits on the other side, and it started to come loose. And primarily I'm trying to put the scraper in right about where the screw holes were, and I started to see it coming loose here, so I just gave it a little bit of a tug, and like I said, you can see the whole thing's about ready to come out. I noticed as I was pulling on this, the window was actually loose too. The glass was loose, so I was carefully making sure that the glass stayed in the lip. In a minute I'll show a close-up of this so you can kind of see what the frame looks like, where the window sits in a sort of inlaid section so that the outer edge of the glass is even with the outer edge of the coach house, but it still has something to seat and seal up against. Just went ahead and removed the glass out of here. By the way, this is laminated glass. There's 2 types of glass that could potentially be used in boat windows: tempered glass or laminated. Laminated, if it cracks, has a big spider crack across it, but it stays together, and tempered is the one that shatters in those little pieces. So I definitely will be going back with laminated, because if I do have a broken window, I don't want it to shatter. This came out way too easy. Shouldn't have come that easy. Definitely have some rot right in there for sure. That's part of what we'll be repairing. Scarf a piece of wood in or something, I'm not sure yet. But as I took that trim off, the window was basically just loose in there. When I took the trim off, the window and the trim with the caulking holding it together would basically just came flapping out. There we go. So as you saw in previous videos, the boat has a blue tarp tent sort of set up around it, but I did want to keep some of the dust and whatnot from the workers doing the work out on the deck from coming into the inside of the boat. So this isn't the greatest solution, but it certainly is one. And by putting up these thin, this is just 1/4 inch, Luan cheap plywood. I just put it in with a couple of drywall screws. But the idea was this would provide a nice flat surface along the inside of the window frame. So any work that needs to be done, like for example where you saw that bit of rot in the between the outer core, the outer layer and the inner layer of wood, I can do that work even with this piece of wood on there, right? So I can put something down in it, I can fill it with epoxy, etc. So that was the goal behind these. I will tell you, I have the luxury of time here, so I'm recording this about 2 weeks after. Publishing this about 2 weeks after this was recorded, and after they've been sanding on the fiberglass on the deck, I'll tell you what, the whole darn galley is full of powder and dust because these just don't seal it up well. But it's a great way to keep the majority of the elements out. So one of the other things that I'm doing here is taking all of the deck fills off. So I've got this disconnected and the bolts out, and I'll go ahead and pull it up through the deck. You can kind of see here, turn this way. You can see there that one's been pulled out of the deck, and the fill is just stored in the top of the hose so that it doesn't get lost. So that's actually the last one. You can kind of see it right out there sitting above the deck. And I've already taken the two out of the other side, which were right behind the electrical panel. So I disconnected the electricity, ran an extension cord in here so I could see, and then went ahead and pulled the deck fills through over there as well. The other thing I went ahead and did was took the electrical panel out and pulled these two deck fills through. This was a water fill right here. It's kind of glassed over right there. It was a water fill, and where you see the hole right there was a diesel fill right there. So I went ahead and pried those out of there, pulled the hose off, and then just put the cap back on it inside the boat. So just like on the other side of the boat, this here was a water fill for another tank, and just behind it, it's glassed over, but there is, maybe it's forward of it. Oh yeah, forward of it, right there is a diesel fill for one of the other diesel tanks. So just got those removed so the glass can be put in place. Forgive the lighting here, it's a little dark underneath the tent here. And then also, same thing, remove the ports and put boards up inside. No? Okay. Try gently on this corner. Hold on. Gently on this? Okay, here we go. Let me find the spot. Ooh, you right? Now we're going to slowly put pressure going up. Don't pry yet. Can you slowly put pressure going upward? Like right here? Hold on, not hard. I don't want to break it. Hold on. Watch your fingers here. I want to try and cut this out.
That corner seems to be stuck. There you go. Whee!
Alright, we'll do the same on the other one here in a second. And you can see the front of the coach house has the ports removed and just some thin 1/4-inch plywood put up from the inside just to keep dust and any weather out of there. Obviously with the tent over it, it's a little better because those are not going to be completely waterproof for sure. So that would have a real leaking problem if that was expected to keep things dry. And you can see sort of same thing on this side. 2 ports have been removed. And today is actually Saturday. I came down to Meyer's yacht yesterday, Friday, as well as today, Saturday, to go ahead and do work on the boat. And I'm just getting some of the surfaces prepared, saving a little bit of the labor so they're not having to do the preparing of all the surfaces before they lay glass. I think I've mentioned in a previous video, they've really been pretty good about working with us and saying, there's a certain amount of labor that has to be done. You can do it or we can do it, right? But the labor, labor's labor on a job. And I remember saying the same thing in my field of work too. So the good news is we kind of talk about what those things are, talk about where I think I have the capability of doing it, and won't screw something up if I do. And then, with that, we kind of come to an agreement on what I'm going to do. I laughed about it. Michael came to our meeting the other day where I was talking about some things I wanted to chat about. And I said, well, I have a list of things I want to make sure we cover. And he said, good, I have a gill list too. And it was exactly that. It was like, hey, here are some things that you could do if you want to try and help out and offset a little bit of the cost. And, these are things that will help out for us if you can get these things done. So those were removing the ports, pulling up this, I don't know what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it a belaying pin rack base that went around the mast because I want glass going all the way underneath that, removing those deck fills, right? So there's a whole kind of host of things that I was able to get done here. So the good news is I got almost all of them done. I brought a cordless drill and I ran out of battery before I got the last port taken out. So I got to remove the bungs in the teak frame, and then I'll be able to get that one out. It should only take me 35-40 minutes to do that. From Gil and Deb and the rest of the crew of Sailing Vessel Dream Chaser, we wish you safe sailing. And listen, if you like this video or you found it useful, do us a favor, give us a little thumbs up in the bottom of the screen here. It really helps us a little bit. It shows our videos a little higher in YouTube's search algorithm, so that's helpful. And if you think you know somebody that would find this video entertaining or useful, by all means, share it with them. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye now. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or even Tumblr. Please take a moment and go over to our website at svdreamchaser.com to download free resources for cruising and how-to projects. Get your thumbs and mouses ready. We also have a couple of links right on the screen for some other playlists and videos that we think you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching, fellow dreamers.